Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nauri. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Trump pitches a sequel but shies away from attacking rivals. In Selma, Biden says right to vote remains under assault. Four U.S. citizens kidnapped in Mexico border city amid shootout. One dead, 9 hurt in stampede at Glorilla concert in New York. Thousands of pro-Trump bots are attacking DeSantis' heli. Manafort, U.S. government settles civil case for $3.15 million. First prominent Democrat enters race for Louisiana governor. Dozens face terrorism charges in Atlanta police protest. Florida flight returns to Cuba after birds cause engine fire. Leonard Skinner founding member Gary Rossington dead at 71. Suicide bombing in southwest Pakistan kills 10 police officers. Pakistan bans media broadcasts of ex-PM Imran Khan speeches. Ukrainian military vows to hold Bakhmut as Russians close in. Scholz warns of consequences if China sends arms to Russia. Ashes of Thailand cave boy released on Mekong River. Cyber attack hits major hospital in Spanish city of Barcelona. Vikings caught LB Eric Hendricks to start salary cap purge. Djokovic withdraws after failed bid to play Indian Wells. And Neymar to undergo season-ending surgery on right ankle. Now, news in detail. Former President Donald Trump cast himself Saturday as the only Republican candidate who can build on his White House legacy, but shied away from directly critiquing his potential rivals, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Trump, giving the headlining address at the annual Conservative Political Action Conference, told a cheering crowd that he was engaged in his final battle as he tries to return to the White House. "We are going to finish what we started," he said. "We are going to complete the mission. We are going to see this battle through to ultimate victory." Though DeSantis, seen as Trump's biggest potential rival, is frequently a subject of name-calling and other attacks in Trump's social media posts and in interviews, he wasn't mentioned directly in Trump's address before conservative activists, who earlier in the day applauded when an old video clip of the Florida governor was shown in a montage. While CPAC was once a must-stop for candidates mulling Republican presidential runs, DeSantis and other major likely contenders skipped this year's gathering amid a scandal and as the group has increasingly become aligned with Trump. The former president's enduring popularity with this segment of voters was on display throughout the conference this week. Some attendees wore Trump-themed outfits with MAGA hats and sequined jackets. Members of his family and his presidential administration were swarmed like celebrities in the hallways and dominated the list of speakers. The handful of other potential and declared candidates not named Trump who spoke received only tepid applause. And the annual CPAC straw poll, an unscientific survey of attendees, found Trump the top choice to be the party's nominee, with 62% support, trailed by DeSantis at 20% and businessman Perry Johnson, who announced his long-shot bid at the conference, with 5%. Nearly all 95% of respondents said they approved of Trump's performance as president. President Joe Biden used the searing memories of Selma's Bloody Sunday to recommit to a cornerstone of democracy, lionizing a seminal moment from the civil rights movement at a time when he has been unable to push enhanced voting protections through Congress and a conservative Supreme Court has undermined a landmark voting law. Selma is a reckoning. The right to vote, to have your vote counted, is the threshold of democracy and liberty. With it, anything's possible, Biden told a crowd of several thousand people seated on one side of the historic Edmund Pettus Bridge, named for a reputed Ku Klux Klan leader. This fundamental right remains under assault. The conservative Supreme Court has gutted the Voting Rights Act over the years. Since the 2020 election, a wave of states and dozens of anti-voting laws fueled by the big lie, and the election deniers now elected to office, he said. As a candidate in 2020, Biden promised to pursue sweeping legislation to bolster protection of voting rights. 2 years ago, his 2021 legislation, named after civil rights leader John Lewis, the late Georgia congressman, included provisions to restrict partisan gerrymandering of congressional districts, strike down hurdles to voting, and bring transparency to a campaign finance system that allows wealthy donors to bankroll political causes anonymously. 4 U.S. citizens have been kidnapped after gunmen opened fire on their vehicle in the northern Mexico border city of Matamoros, the FBI said. The 4 had entered Matamoros across from Brownsville, Texas on Friday and were traveling in a white minivan with North Carolina license plates. The FBI San Antonio Division Office said in a statement Sunday that the vehicle came under fire shortly after it entered Mexico. All 4 Americans were placed in a vehicle and taken from the scene by armed men, the office said. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for the return of the victims and the arrest of the culprits. U.S. Ambassador to Mexico Ken Slaughter said in a statement Monday that the Americans were kidnapped at gunpoint and that an innocent Mexican citizen died in the attack. He did not offer any additional details but said various U.S. justice agencies were working with their Mexican counterparts to recover the missing U.S. citizens. Mexico President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador said Monday that the Americans had crossed the border to buy medicine and ended up caught in the crossfire between 2 armed groups. Unfounded fears of gunfire at a rap concert in Rochester, New York, sent a crowd rushing toward the exits in a stampede that killed 1 person and left 2 others fighting for their lives, authorities said. The Memphis rap stars Glorilla and Finesse 2 Times had finished performing Sunday night at Rochester's Main Street Armory when people exiting the venue just after 11 p.m. began to surge dangerously, Police Chief David M. Smith said at a news briefing Monday. We do not have any evidence of gunshots being fired or of anyone being shot or stabbed at the scene, Smith said. Police made their way inside and found 3 badly injured women. One, aged 33, died at a hospital. The two others were in critical condition Monday, police said. 7 additional people were treated at area hospitals for injuries that were not life-threatening. What began last night as a night of live music and fun for the performer Glorilla ended in tragedy, with one person dead and 2 more fighting for their lives, the chief said. While there is no evidence of gunfire, Smith said police are investigating several possible causes of the fatal surge, including possibly crowd size, shots fired, pepper spray, and other contributing factors. Over the past 11 months, someone created thousands of fake automated Twitter accounts, perhaps hundreds of thousands of them, to offer a stream of praise for Donald Trump. Besides posting adoring words about the former president, the fake accounts ridiculed Trump's critics from both parties and attacked Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and UN ambassador who is challenging her one-time boss for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. When it came to Ron DeSantis, the bots aggressively suggested that the Florida governor couldn't beat Trump but would be a great running mate. As Republican voters size up their candidates for 2024, whoever created the bot network is seeking to put a thumb on the scale, using online manipulation techniques pioneered by the Kremlin to sway the digital platform conversation about candidates while exploiting Twitter's algorithms to maximize their reach. The sprawling bot network was uncovered by researchers at Kyabra, an Israeli tech firm that shared its findings with the Associated Press. While the identity of those behind the network of fake accounts is unknown, Kyabra's analysts determined that it was likely created within the US to identify a bot. Researchers will look for patterns in an account's profile, its follower list, and the content it posts. Human users typically post about a variety of subjects, with a mix of original and reposted material, but bots often post repetitive content about the same topics. That was true of many of the bots identified by Kyabra. Paul Manafort, the former chairman of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, has agreed to pay $3.15 million to settle a civil case filed by the Justice Department over undeclared foreign bank accounts. When the civil case was filed in April 2022, prosecutors alleged that Manafort had failed to disclose more than 20 offshore bank accounts he ordered opened in the United Kingdom, Cyprus, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. The government sought an order for Manafort to pay fines, penalties, and interest, alleging he had failed to file federal tax documents detailing the accounts and failed to disclose the money on his income tax returns. The government said false tax returns were filed from 2006 to 15 and that the Treasury Department had notified Manafort of the fines and assessment in July 2020. The settlement was detailed in court documents filed February 22 in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. With just 7 months until Louisiana's election for governor, Sean Wilson officially entered the gubernatorial race Monday, becoming the first prominent Democrat to seek the seat later this year. The former head of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, who appears to be the only high-profile Democrat that will run for the state's top government post in October, announced his candidacy on social media and released an official campaign video Monday morning. Wilson served as the Department of Transportation and Development Secretary for 7 years after being appointed by current Governor John Bel Edwards. He retired from the position last week in preparation for his candidacy. During Wilson's tenure, the state invested nearly $5.5 billion in infrastructure projects consisting of more than 7,000 miles of improvements. In 2020, he was elected as the first black president of the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. Nearly 3 dozen people have been detained after flaming bottles and rocks were thrown at officers during a protest at Cop City, a new police training center that's been the site of prior demonstrations and the death of a protester, Atlanta police said Monday. Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shearbaum said at a midnight news conference that several pieces of construction equipment were set on fire Sunday in what he called a coordinated attack at the site for the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center in DeKalb County. It was the latest flare-up in a cause that has drawn to Georgia both anti-police demonstrators and environmentalists who call themselves defenders of the forest. Surveillance video released by police show a piece of heavy equipment in flames at the facility under construction that opponents call Cop City. It was among multiple pieces of construction equipment destroyed, police said. Protesters dressed in all black threw large rocks, bricks, Molotov cocktails, and fireworks at police officers Sunday at the construction site, police said. Police from nearby communities stepped in to assist city officers and no officers were injured, Shearbaum said, adding that the Federal Bureau of Investigation has joined police in the case. A Southwest Airlines flight to Florida from Cuba was forced to turn back Sunday after it struck birds that caused an engine to catch fire and fill the cabin with smoke, the airline said. No injuries were reported. Southwest Airlines Flight 2923 departed Jose Marti International Airport in Havana en route to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport on Sunday afternoon. The aircraft experienced bird strikes to an engine and the aircraft's nose, the airline said in a statement. A passenger told WSVN that the impact sent fumes through the airplane and caused emergency oxygen masks to deploy. It was like a burn smell and it was hurting my face. My eyes got real red. My chest started to burn, Steven Rodriguez said. The pilots safely returned to Havana, where the 147 passengers and 6 crew members evacuated the aircraft on slides, the airline said. The airline bussed passengers and crew members to the airport terminal and put the passengers on a different flight to Fort Lauderdale, the airline said. Gary Rossington, Lynyrd Skynyrd's last surviving original member who also helped to found the group, died Sunday at the age of 71. No cause of death was given. It is with our deepest sympathy and sadness that we have to advise that we lost our brother, friend, family member, songwriter and guitarist Gary Rossington today, the band wrote on Facebook. Gary is now with his Skynyrd brothers and family in heaven and playing it pretty, like he always does. Please keep Dale, Mary, Annie, and the entire Rossington family in your prayers and respect the family's privacy at this difficult time. Rossington cheated death more than once, Rolling Stone reported. He survived a car accident in 1976 in which he drove his Ford Torino into a tree, inspiring the band's cautionary song That Smell. A year later, he emerged from the 1977 plane crash that killed singer Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, and backing vocalist Casey Gaines with 2 broken arms, a broken leg, and a punctured stomach and liver. Now it's time for global updates. A suicide bomber on a motorcycle rammed a police truck in Pakistan's restive southwest, killing 10 police officers and wounding 12 in one of the deadliest attacks on security forces in recent months, authorities said. The newly formed Tehreek-e-Jihad militant group hours later, in a statement, claimed responsibility for the attack, which took place on a bridge in the Sibi district of Balochistan province. Small Balochistan-based separatist groups and local militants have been blamed for previous such attacks. Mahmoud Notanzeh, a local police chief, said the officers were on a routine patrol when the attack happened, initially killing 9. The casualties were taken to a nearby hospital, where one of the critically wounded policemen later died, he added. Sibi is about 150 kilometers east of Quetta, the provincial capital. The force of the blast overturned the truck, which caused additional injuries, he said. Trucks often transport troops in Pakistan. Pakistan's media regulator banned broadcast of former Prime Minister Imran Khan's speeches as police arrived at one of his homes to deliver another court summons for the ousted premier, officials said Monday. The development is the latest in a political tug-of-war between the former cricket star turned Islamist politician and the government of his successor, Shahbaz Sharif, as Khan campaigns for early elections. The ban by the Pakistan Electronic Media Regulatory Authority was imposed on Sunday and went into effect on Monday. It covers airing of both recorded and live speeches by Khan, who was ousted in a no-confidence vote in Parliament last April. The ban followed a particularly fiery speech by Khan, who has a large grassroots following, lambasting Sharif's government and the country's all-powerful military. Khan's party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, now in the opposition, denounced the ban. Fawad Chaudhry, a top party leader, told the Associated Press that the measure reflects the government's nervousness and fear that Khan's party would win the upcoming elections in 2 provincial assemblies. Ukrainian military leaders expressed determination Monday to hold on to Bakhmut as Russian forces encroached on the devastated eastern city they have sought to capture for 6 months at the cost of thousands of lives. Less than a week ago, an advisor to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said the defenders might retreat from Bakhmut and fall back to nearby positions. But Zelensky's office said Monday that he chaired a meeting in which the country's top military brass spoke in favor of continuing the defense operation and further strengthening our positions in Bakhmut. Intense Russian shelling targeted the city in the Donetsk region and nearby villages as Moscow deployed more resources to try to finish off Bakhmut's resistance, according to local officials. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says there would be consequences if China sent weapons to Russia for Moscow's war in Ukraine, but he is fairly optimistic that Beijing will refrain from doing so. Scholz's comments came in an interview with CNN that aired Sunday, 2 days after he met US President Joe Biden in Washington. US officials have warned recently that China could step off the sidelines and begin providing arms and ammunition to Moscow. Ahead of his trip, Scholz had urged Beijing to refrain from sending weapons and instead use its influence to press Russia to withdraw its troops from Ukraine. Asked by CNN if he could imagine sanctioning China if it did aid Russia, Scholz replied, "I think it would have consequences, but we are now in a stage where we are making clear that this should not happen, and I am relatively optimistic that we will be successful with our request in this case, but we will have to look at and we have to be very, very cautious." He didn't elaborate on the nature of the consequences. Germany has Europe's biggest economy and China has been its single biggest trading partner in recent years. Family members, monks and friends watched from a boat Monday as the ashes of one of the 12 boys rescued from a flooded cave in northern Thailand in 2018 were released into the Mekong River. 17-year-old Duanphet Phramthep died last month while attending a sports academy in England. Duanphet's ashes floated away in a makeshift vessel, along with soccer balls and some of his prized possessions, in an area of the river in Chiang Rai, the country's northernmost province, where the borders of Laos, Myanmar, and Thailand meet, known as the Golden Triangle. His body was cremated in a Buddhist ceremony in England in accordance with his family's wishes. Phra Kru Prayut Chetianukarn, abbot of the province's Wat Phra That Doi Wao temple, who led the Buddhist funeral procession, said the location is where people often scatter the ashes of their family members. He said the Golden Triangle is believed to contain a naga that helps protect and takes care for us. Duanphet, known as Dom, was found unconscious in his room on February 12 at Brooke House College Football Academy in Leicestershire, in central England. He died in a hospital 2 days later. The cause of death has not been released to the public by coroners, but police said it was not believed to be suspicious. Buddhist prayer sessions for Duangfei took place over the weekend at Wat Phra That Doi Wao in his hometown of Chiang Rai after his ashes arrived from Britain on Sunday. A ransomware cyber attack on one of Barcelona's main hospitals has crippled the center's computer system and forced the cancellation of 150 non-urgent operations and up to 3,000 patient checkups, officials said Monday. The attack Sunday on the hospital clinic de Barcelona shut down computers at the facility's laboratories, emergency room and pharmacy at 3 main centers and several external clinics. We can't make any prediction as to when the system will be back up to normal, Hospital Director Anthony Castells told a news conference on Monday. He said the hospital's contingency plan would allow them to function for several days, but he hoped the system would be fixed sooner. A Catalonia regional government statement said the region's cybersecurity agency was working to restore the system. The agency said Monday the attack was orchestrated from outside of Spain by a group called Ransom House. Regional Government Telecommunications Secretary Sergi Merson said that hackers hadn't made any ransom demand so far, but that no money would be paid. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,694.34. The NYSE Composite is decreased by 26.72 points or 0.17%. Tokyo stock close price is 28,237.78. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 310.31 points or 1.11%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,322.0259. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 6.37 points or 0.19%. Hong Kong stock close price is 20,603.19. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 35.65 points or 0.17%. Bombay stock close price is 60,224.46. The Sensex Index is increased by 415.49 points or 0.69%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. The Minnesota Vikings started their salary cap purge by terminating the contract of veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks on Monday, ending his 8-year run with the team. The 2019 All-Pro started 113 regular season games plus 6 in the playoffs for the Vikings, who drafted him in the second round in 2015 out of UCLA. Kendricks totaled 857 tackles, 51 passes defensed and 9 interceptions. He was voted a captain by his teammates and one of the club's most active players in community service. The move saves $9.5 million against Minnesota's cap, with more trimming before free agency begins next week. Kendricks had no guaranteed money left on the contract extension he signed in 2018. Cutting him cost the Vikings $1.93 million in dead money. Top-ranked Novak Djokovic has withdrawn from the upcoming BNP Paribas Open, having lost his bid to enter the United States unvaccinated to play in the Southern California event. The tournament announced his withdrawal on Sunday night. Play in the combined ATP WTA event begins Wednesday at Indian Wells Tennis Garden and runs through March 19. Senator Rick Scott said on Twitter that Homeland Security had rejected Djokovic's vaccine waiver request, which would have allowed him to play back-to-back at Indian Wells and Miami, which runs March 19 to April 2. The US is ending its COVID-19 emergency declaration on May 11, which will allow foreign air travelers to enter the country without being vaccinated. The 22-time Grand Slam champion lost in the semi-finals of the Dubai Tennis Championships on Friday. With Djokovic out, Nicolas Basilashvili moved into the Indian Wells draw. Neymar will undergo season-ending surgery on his damaged right ankle and will be out for up to 4 months, Paris Saint-Germain said on Monday. Neymar will miss PSG's Champions League match at Bayern Munich on Wednesday and will be operated on in the coming days at a hospital in Doha, the Qatari-backed club said. Neymar Jr. has presented several episodes of instability of the right ankle in recent years, PSG said in a statement. Following his last sprain on February 20, the Paris Saint-Germain medical staff recommended a ligament repair operation to avoid a major risk of recurrence. All the experts consulted have confirmed this necessity. Neymar picked up his latest injury last month in a 4-3 win over Lille in the French league. He also injured his right ankle in Brazil's opening match at last year's World Cup in Qatar, but the forward was able to return later in the tournament. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest news. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network, and Horizon satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.